So we left off with current working directories. So again, we are going over a bunch of concepts that may be harder to understand if you don't know computers, and then we will get into how to use the coding aspect. So, a file has two key properties. Who can tell me what they were?
The format, like if it's a text file or a
Okay, that's part of the file name, but yeah.
location.
Which is also called the what?
Directory.
Say what?
Directory.
No. It's the file path.
Oh.
So the file path is where the file is located, and then you have to have a file name. Now, can we have files with the same name?
Yes, they have different, like types or, I don't know.
Yep, different types of files. So I can have a file named, like I showed you all yesterday. Desktop. That's not right, but this will work. So, as you can see, I have, where'd it go? In-class data, in-class data, in-class data. These are all different types of files, so they can have the same name. But if I were to change any one of these to a different file type, we'd get errors. You all have tried to copy and paste something and it says, or save something and it says, something with this name already exists, would you like to replace it? Not that a computer sounds like that, but the reason for that is you can't have the same name with the same file extension in the same spot. Because that'd be like having Thorin in the same clothes in this room right now. Can we have two Thorns? You can't technically have two Thorns in another room, but anyway. You can only have one file with the extension in one location. So our current working directory, does anyone remember what that is?
It's like where the file in question is being stored.
Correct. So again, I'm going to pull this old Python scripts file. The current working directory, if I were to open up this file, this Bible concordance, the current working directory of this is this file path up here. It is the location where the file you are currently working on resides. You can change that, and I'll show you all how, but that is what you need, that's where you currently are. And if you wanted to go, so let's say I'm working on this file, and I want to go into another folder up here, there's two ways I can do that. I can do the absolute file path, which is, you can think of the absolute file path as the address on an envelope. No matter where you are in the world, if you have the right address on the envelope, it will get there. No matter where I send it, it's going to get there. However, if I just write the room next door, will that go anywhere? If I'm in China and I want to send something to Thorin and I write on the envelope, the room next door, that's not going to work. But if I'm in this room and Thorin's next door, I can say on the envelope, the room next door, and it will get there. That is called a relative file path because it's relative to where you currently are. If I write the file next door and I'm in China, it will go to the person next, or the room next door, or next door. But if I have that same code or that same letter and I'm in this room, it will go to that door. So the relative path is dependent on what your current working directory is. The absolute file path is not. This up here, this is the absolute file path.
Can you share your screen?
Oh. Took you guys long enough. Just sitting here. So this right here is the absolute file path. No matter where I'm working, no matter what my current directory is, if I type this in and then I add the file name, which would be Bible results.txt, I can open that file no matter where I'm working in the computer. But if I use a relative file path, I have to relate it to where I am, which can get really confusing. I recommend absolute file paths. It's a little less dynamic. By dynamic, I mean anytime you want to make a change, you have to make a couple changes. But up until I would use absolute file paths just until you know the code's working, you know it's going to the right spot, and then you start changing it to relative paths, because with a relative path, you could, all you have to tell it to do is open this file, and then it will create all these files and start doing all of these things, as opposed to open this file, and then open this one, and then create, you have to specifically tell it every file and where to create it. So relative file path is, for me, more confusing. Do you all have confusions or computers? Do you guys have any questions on that? The concept of a relative path versus an absolute path.
What does a relative path look like?
It will look like, so instead of this right here, it's just a period slash. So let me look at an example. So file is text.txt, so just ignore that. If I wanted to go to this current file, would be, the current working directory is this. So let me do, this might be better, let's do folder. Folder is text, whatever. This would be, that is the same as folder. If you wanted to go to the parent folder, that's how you get to the parent folder. And any subsequent folder in text would be dot slash, and then, like the book says, fizz slash spam dot. So this is, so if I wanted the parent folder of this, I have to do like, oh wait, wrong way. And that would just keep going up parent folders, I believe. Again, I don't really use that because it confuses me. I'm very easily confused if you all haven't figured that out. David's in the corner laughing at me. He's like, yeah, we know you're confusing. So that's the difference between a relative and an absolute path, and we're going to go through that. Again, I just wanted you all to see and have the concept in your head, so that when we're going through the code, you all aren't like, what's a file path? Last little thing before we actually start doing stuff is the parts of a file path. Now this is really getting nitty gritty in my opinion, because how often are you gonna need every file? I mean, you might every file for every section of a file path for a name. So what do I mean by that? Copy, paste. So what you can do is you can get just this part, just this, just this, just that, just this, just that. And what it will do is it will segment the name for you, and you can then say, I have, a file called this, and it just allows you to nab parts of the file path that you may need later in your code. Again, this isn't super, we don't use it that much in this class. However, it is good to know that, oh man, my code, if I could just get the name of the folder 2 levels up from this, I'd be set. Well, okay, you can do that. You basically you type in a couple letters. You all have questions? Do you guys know what a parent and child folder is? Brendan, are you on your phone? Do you guys know what a parent and child folder is? Okay, so a parent folder is the folder that you're currently in. So if I'm in here, the parent folder of Bible Concordance is Python scripts. So it's the folder I'm in, current working directory. A child folder, like these three folders, these folders here, are child folders of Python scripts. So it's really, the parent folder is the folder above you, and the child folder is the folder below you. Does that make sense? Parent, child, parents tend to be older, bigger than children, one hopes. Okay, so let's get into actually coding some of this stuff.
Mr. Stolter,
What's up?
is it possible to change like the screen you're sharing? Like we can see like the recording thing.
Yes, I'm sorry. The screens came up in the wrong order, or it didn't register. There we go. So you guys have been watching on just that little.
Yeah, it was the smaller window.
Sorry about that. Again, you guys can speak up sooner. Like as soon as you see something wrong, start talking. Now I feel like an idiot. Because I didn't notice. Alright, I didn't notice the green line wasn't around this one. Okay, does anyone have questions? Comments, concerns? Yes?
Hey, so if you import regex, does it mess up your user's backslash thing?
No.
Okay.
It only, so if you import RE, the only time it messes with your backslashes is if you do re.compile
Oh, right.
and you throw it in here.
Okay.
Then you'll want to be careful with your backslashes, but we're not doing that today. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a lot of this in the shell because it's just easier. You know what, I always say that and I always end up forgetting it, or messing that up. So what we're going to do is, in order to mess with file paths, we need to import something. And again, we're going to go from pathlib, path library, import path. Now what we're going to do is you can create your own path, right? Do I have to, yeah, I have to do this. You guys, if you're doing this in the shell, you don't need to print. I'm just doing that because I want this to be saved and easily read for you all. But if you just want to mess with it in the shell, feel free. So what we're going to do, so if we do spam, bacon, and eggs, what this should do is it should put these together in a file path for me. So, again, I don't now need to, and I also think this works on your operating system, so it doesn't matter. Fortunately, yeah. So what this does is, however your operating system puts together file paths, this will do that. So if you're working on, so if you want code to work on both Mac and PC, what you'll need is you'll need to do path, you'll need to use this. But if you're only using code that will work, that you want to write on or use on Windows, you can do the way we've done file paths in the past. Do you guys remember loading in your images for your game?
Yeah.
You can do it that way with the R and all of that. However, if we were doing this on a Mac or a PC, you want to do path and then have all that information, because it'll automatically make it into a correct file path for you. So what we want to do, is let's get the, what's another thing we could do? Oh, you can create file paths to a bunch of files. Ooh. I know this is riveting stuff. You You guys look so bored. What's up?
Okay,
You're tired?
yeah,
Do we need to do some jumping jacks real quick?
sure.
Alright, we're gonna pause the recording. And we're back. Whew. Alright. So, what we can do is if we have a list of files, so I'm just gonna do my files equals, I'm just gonna do spam.txt. Now we will get to a point where you will actually get a list of every file name. So we won't have to create it. That's actually the next section is when we're organizing files, is how we cycle through a huge directory of files. And what that will do is that will actually give us you can have a list of all the files, and then from there you can add, you can do this path thing and get the exact file path for all that stuff. Because you guys have ever installed something right on your computer and you see all the files it has to load and write and put in the right spot. That's what we're learning how to do, right? This is the very beginning tedious part of like, all right, what's 2 plus 2, everyone? You gotta know that before you can do integrals, because that's exactly how math works, right? 2 plus 2 and then you're integrating stuff. Sometimes it feels that way, right? Yeah. Okay, so what we're gonna do, again, you all can do this in the shell. I'm just doing it here so it's easier for you guys to look at later. We're gonna go for file name in my files. We're gonna print path, and we're gonna close that off, comma, file name. So what you could do, we're gonna hard code this briefly, and then we're gonna be able to add the file path, the actual file path. But for now, just make this C:/ users / your login. So it would be your first dot last name. And then when you run this, notice, once you run it, I want you to tell me something. Do you guys see what I see? That's a very terrible, whatever. Is there a separator between zstolter and file name in my code?
No,
Is there one down here?
yeah,
Yes. So, you guys remember in the intro class where I had you change the file location? Older class didn't do this, but this is the people who took it last semester. I had you change the file location and you had to end it with 2 backslashes. I don't know if you guys remember that.
I don't
I do.
remember that part.
yeah.
You don't?
Not
Okay.
that part. I remember you having us change it for like.
To be able to change the location. In order for that to work, you had to have double backslashes. Now, you don't if you just use path, because it will put this together as a workable, usable file path. That file path may not exist, right? None of these files actually exist. It doesn't care. What it's doing is it's putting them together as a file path that you can then use later. Using the / operator to join paths. You can just, alright, that's kind of lame. You can put these together. Let's see, can I just do this right here? I doubt this will work, but this will be funny if it does. Cool. So you can join file paths together. I'm gonna throw something in here real quick. C:// what's up? Uh-oh. Apparently you can't do that. You can't have 2 C's. Oh, that's actually pretty smart for the computer, man.
Just ignore the first part.
Well, so it knows you can only have one C colon, one C drive. C drive is typically your main hard drive, which is why when you plug in a USB or an external hard drive, you get a letter D, E, F, G, blah, blah, blah. It's never C because your main hard drive that's plugged into your motherboard, by default, I believe, gets
Yeah,
the letter C.
C drive is operating system.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, so
Exactly right.
for like video games way back, I guess not that long ago, when they had like discs for computers, would they have their own files on it, and then they'd be using, like in the code, they use the file path of like the drive for all their stuff?
Probably. I mean, I didn't code, but yeah, when it's the same thing with all sort of computer software. It goes from C, and then it says, do you want to install it here or there? And
And no, it adds a code for that?
yeah, and the code then goes, okay, well, they didn't want to install it in C users, right?
Yeah.
They wanted to install it in C users Stockton's folder. So now we have to go from there and then install everything. So, yeah. So a lot of installers, I would assume, use relative paths once they know where they're starting from. Because then it's just, you know, blah, 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 we're creating all of this stuff. But notice, as soon as I put C colon in here, only this one works. Because the computer knows you can only have one C colon. But it doesn't detect that this spam.txt is supposed to be a file, not a folder. But you may be able to put a .txt in a file. So if you have two file paths you need to join, you can concatenate them basically with this slash. Why would you want that? A script that uses code isn't safe. Yeah, again, this next section is just warning. Try not to use backslashes all the time. Try to use path, because if you're always using backslashes, what'll happen?
You're gonna, like... I
It
don't
will
know,
only work where?
in the raw thing?
Microsoft, yep.
Never mind.
Because Apple uses backward or normal slashes, whereas Windows uses these slashes. So if you're always trying to join things together, so if you do something like dot join, and you're like C colon. Oh, I have to print this. Oh, what did I do wrong? Oh. Yeah, so if I do this, if you do double backslashes, you get a single double slash. You guys remember why that is, right?
Because they negate each other?
Kind of. If I only have one backslash, then it reads it as backslash apostrophe, and it prints just an apostrophe.
Right. And, oh, and then the other one's just backslash, backslash.
Yeah, backslash backslash gives you a backslash in your string. So, if you do it like this, will it work for Windows? Yes. Will it work for something else? No. So it's better to do this path, home folder, that sort of stuff. Yeah, that's I'm gonna skip that. That's fine. Okay, that's all extra kind of. Okay, so next thing we're gonna do. So don't do this if you want code to work on PC. Questions thus far?
Wait, so the path R colon etc. that works on Mac though?
Yes.
But wait, so does this like convert it or?
It detects what operating system you're using and writes the file path the way that operating system writes file paths.
So we'll actually edit what you said, users.
It'll modify,
Oh,
because you can't edit strings.
right.
So, just technicalities there. Okay, so we're gonna stop there for break time, and then we're gonna get the current working directory and making folders and stuff like that. So, pause. All right, and we're back. So,
This just go, did you pause the recording or make it one?
I just paused it, so this will be one big file. So we're gonna skip a little bit past that home. Yeah, whatever. We're just gonna skip that for now because we need to get to current working directory. So in the future, if you ever have to deal with file paths and you just need to know a little bit more, or you're wondering, can I do this? Come back to this part. Again, because a lot of this stuff is, I know I can do it, but I don't do it enough, so I'll look back on it. You okay?
Hmm?
You okay?
Yeah.
Okay. You just look like, what are you saying all of
No, I rather like.
But current working directory. So we're gonna get started with doing some cool stuff. So what you guys need to do, actually, I will stop that recording.